Okay, Kerry Brown, I don't know if you can stay on the line, but we're just going to get another perspective now from Dr. Adam Lockyer, who's a lecturer in US studies at the University of Sydney. He's with me to discuss the likely reaction of the United States to China's new leadership team. Adam Lockyer, thank you very much for coming in. Well, what do you make of it, and more importantly, what is Washington going to be making of it?
Well, Washington saw this transition coming a long way off. So Xi Jinping has been the successor in waiting for the last 5 years or so, and so the United States has been developing relationships with him over that period. So Joe Biden, the Vice President of the United States, has visited China and has met with Xi, and he has also come out and visited America, and Joe Biden has hosted him. So there's already a personal relationship between the leadership.
And look, I was reading that Xi Jinping has actually been to America himself as a younger man and visited places like Iowa, for example, as part of a delegation.
Yeah, that's right. So he's got a deep knowledge of the United States, and there's already close personal relationships that have been developed there. So I think it'd be largely business as usual.
Okay, now the US President is visiting Asia this week. The Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and the Defence Secretary Leon Panetta have been in this part of the world. Is that part of a diplomatic curtsy towards the new leadership team, so to speak?
Not really. So these meetings and these trips were organised completely independent of the transition in China. So the Asian meeting, the meetings in Australia, they were completely organised separately from the leadership in China. However, they are symbolic of larger changes in US foreign policy towards the Asia-Pacific region, and in particular towards China, but they weren't caused by the leadership transition in China.
To what extent does this leadership change allow the United States to reset the relationship with China, so to speak, and to go about building new ties?
So to an extent, yes. However, we see a lot of movement below the surface. So a lot of the challenges that we're going to be facing the incoming leadership in China are domestic in origin. So environmental challenges, food safety problems, being able to feed a growing population who's demanding more meat and more produce. And so this is expertise that the United States has and is already supplying to China, and is likely to be able to help out the leadership in the future, rather than necessarily always at that high level diplomacy, minister on minister.
Okay, Professor Kerry Brown, I hope you're still there on the line from Shanghai. Can I just ask you a little bit for your thoughts about the rhetoric that was employed by Xi Jinping when he spoke today?
Well, as I say, Hu Jintao was famous as being very introspective, kind of very scholarly, didn't really have a popular tone in a way, never really used a personal register. A lot of effort has been gone into creating a story of Xi Jinping. Where did he come from? His family background. He's a princeling party aristocracy. He's worked his way up also through all the levels of governance here, from village level upwards. And so I think we saw today, a kind of sign of a more expressive leadership, someone who, for the outside world at least, will have a little bit more personality than Hu Jintao, who was obviously famously kind of wooden and not really kind of a very sort of media-friendly figure. So I think in terms of presentation, Xi Jinping will make a difference. But in terms of policy, I don't think we can tell at the moment. I don't think we'll know for quite a while where the policy kind of, heart of these new leaders really lies.
And I guess we can't really gauge how assertive or cooperative the new Chinese leadership may be.
Yeah, I think for America and other powers now, we have time to give a bit of easy win, basically reach out to these leaders, don't expect too much from them, but, kind of give them some things where they can't be soft on the sort of...
Okay, look, it does sound like we might have lost the line there with Professor Kerry Brown in Shanghai, but Adam Lockyer is still here in the studio with me. And Adam, interesting there that Kerry Brown was just talking a little bit about the style of leadership that Xi Jinping will be bringing. A lot is often said about China's wish to extend its sphere of influence in this region, and the push and push back that exists between the United States and China. Where do you think this leadership transition leaves that delicate balancing act?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that priorities number 1, 2 and 3 for the incoming leadership will all be domestic. So the big challenges facing the incoming Chinese leadership will be domestic in origin, whether it's civil unrest, whether it's being able to manage the slowing economy, etc. So I think that the foreign policy will probably take a back seat. Now that could...
You think the gaze could shift inwards?
Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's always been that the priority for Beijing has always been domestic stability and economic growth. That's always been their priority, and foreign policy has always taken a back seat to that. Now, the incoming leadership, that's going to probably double and increase, so that opens an opportunity for the United States to really consolidate its position in the region while the leadership makes itself comfortable in Beijing.
Yeah, because some analysts suggest that China has really opened the door to the United States by fanning territorial disputes and so on, being somewhat more assertive in its foreign policy. That's opened the door for the United States and allowed the United States back into Asia and to extend its influence again, the pivot towards Asia, as we've heard the Americans talk about.
Yeah, well, even a lot of those territorial disputes have an inward focus for China. So the Chinese leadership have been fanning, say, anti-Japanese sentiment for the last 20 years, largely to consolidate their own position. And so now a lot of those hens are coming home to roost. And so we see that a lot of the foreign policy all have domestic sources, whereas the United States is developing its friendships in the region, and this latest tour through Southeast Asia is just a part of that.
Okay, so we're likely to see a shift then from the the Communist Party in China taking that sort of ultra-nationalist approach?
Probably not ultra-nationalist, but they certainly do like to wave the flag occasionally to rally the people around Beijing and pursue those foreign policy interests. So I think that what we see with the pivot towards Asia is an opportunity for the United States to deepen its relationship particularly in Southeast Asia, where China has had particularly strong interests. So its closest friends in the region, like Burma, like Cambodia, like Laos, are now opening up to the United States, and we see the tour of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama next week as a part of that.
Okay, Dr. Adam Lockyer, thanks very much for coming in and talking to us about that.